I am live. Sorry, got a little bit of a late start here, and everything is a little bit of a mess. So I'm gonna take a minute here and do a little straightening up. I'm also still sort of setting up everything I need for the stream. I like to get my laptop up so I can see what you're all seeing. It's very convenient, but yeah, sorry for the late start. I had the entire day to figure it out and be prepared, and yet here we are. So, yeah, that's about how organized I am today. But I do think I have everything that I need down here. All right. Cool. There we go. Got the stream up here so I can see what I'm doing. I can see what you're all seeing. Great. Fantastic. All right. So, some of you might be noticing this is a terrible pigsty here. I have everything still out here from painting. I have done no cleaning here. I'm actually, this container, I use old protein containers for all the bits of plastic and resin and everything, and this one is done. It's going to go off to recycling. I'm going to go get a fresh one. All right, got a fresh trash container. Ooh, smells like vanilla. Vanilla it is. All right, let's see. Stream's looking good. All right, cool. So yeah, I got a lot of cleanup to do here. A lot of projects I'm working on. I wish that what I was doing today was exciting, cool projects related directly to pro wrestling, because I have a lot of good projects coming up for that. I got some custom stuff I'm going to be designing. I might try to stream a little bit of 3D modeling in the future, so you can sort of see how I make my designs. But for now, the project I'm working on is actually a commission project. Something I was asked to do by an educational nonprofit. They needed. Well, I do have a little monster truck project. We'll get to that in a minute. Bit of work there. You'll see I have these here, these kind of crazy looking shapes, and what these are vertebrae from a snake called the Titanaboa. It is obviously, based on the fact that this is a part of its spine, a huge snake. And you can actually, it's pretty cool when you print these off, you can see exactly how the pieces fit together to create the spine, which is pretty cool. They needed some of these for a unit they do some work teaching a bit about evolution, a bit about measurement and biology. So the work that I have to do, I've actually done a lot of printing for these, but you'll see this obviously looks a fair bit different from this, and that's because all of these vertical bits here, this is all support material for while the printer is creating this, and all of that has to be removed to reveal the final shape below. And I've got a whole pile of tools I use for this process. I've got some nice flush cut nippers, some needle nose pliers, X-Acto blade, an old Swiss Army knife that I don't mind beating up pretty good, and a new Swiss Army knife that I'm going to beat up pretty good. This is actually a Dollar Tree, so $1.25, so I don't have high hopes for what it's capable of. But yeah, you'll kind of see around here, it's a bit of a mess. So I'm going to do a bit of cleaning while we're here. I do have other projects that they've asked me to. Oh, you know what? I gotta kill this. That's going to help the audio quality a fair bit. Yeah, sorry, I had a dehumidifier running, which is really important when you're 3D printing, because all of this, the filament this is printed on, is called PLA. PLA and most plastics are, they are hydrophilic, which means they attract and will just soak up moisture like straight out of the air. And as soon as plastic does that, it is very difficult to work with. When you heat it up for extruding, for printing, or for casting, it basically gets foamy, and that's because the water is heating up, becoming steam, and then trying to escape from the plastic. It makes it just unusable, just the worst. It's a nightmare. And here in Massachusetts, and down in my basement, which is I've done a bit of work sealing the concrete down here, but you know, nothing's perfect, so it will get humid. So I have a decent sized dehumidifier that I run basically all summer. So I end up with a bit of a climate controlled basement, which is very helpful. So I've got a number of those to work on. I also have these here, and we'll get to those in a bit. For now, I think I'm actually going to bring you over to my 3D printer, where I have another one of these I need to take off and bring over here. So we're going mobile. And you'll see I have the resin printer. We're going to clean that out in a little bit. It's not currently operating, but we'll get there. This is for a different project, and here is that other Titanaboa Vertebrae. So to get this off here, I got some little bits of plastic there. I'm just going to pull the whole piece up. This is the whole print bed. And then just very carefully, I'm going to kind of just let it come off nice and slow so I don't tear the surface here, which I've done in the past to other print beds. This is all just support ridge, keeps pieces from slipping around. I like to remove that. I like to keep the bed as clean as I can in between prints. So get all that out of the way. I'm going to set that here. And because I don't have something to print on here right away, I'm going to go ahead and tell it to go to its home position so that I can turn the machine off and just let it rest a little bit. Yeah, and you'll see there's the print bed moving on the x-axis, y-axis? It's the x or the y. The vertical is the z. I'm going to say that's the y and that this is the x, but I'm sure someone who has been 3D printing longer than I have will correct me on that. Grab our little vertebrae here. And yeah, you'll see it's just, it has reset itself, and I am going to turn the machine off. And again, we'll get back to those in a little bit. But for now, bring you back over to our little workstation here. And I can get you in a little closer. There we go. Keep everything nice and close here. And I'm going to set some of these out of the way. And we are going to set to work on getting the support material off this first one. And I can tell you from having done this one previously, it is a bear. It is not fun. It's a fair bit of work, but I think it's worth it, especially for something that's going to be used as an educational tool. I think it's worth it to put in the effort because, you know, I believe these are high school and middle school kids that'll be using these. You know, being able to help a kid that age learn about biology and about animals is just, that's so cool. I'm happy that they can use it that way. All right, I'm going to get in here with, this is the Swiss Army knife that I knocked the tip off of last time, and see if I can't start making a little bit of progress here. Yeah, these are huge support pieces, which is a real pain. I might be able to, yeah, now we're getting somewhere. You know, and that's the tough part, is you want to make sure you can destroy all the support pieces, but you want to be real careful not to hurt the actual print. There we go. Now we're starting to free some stuff up. But yeah, it's a big week for streams for Perry Von Vicious. You know, right now I'm on with you folks here on the Twitch. And tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, we will be debuting Pro Wrestling Grind's Masters of Reality, the most recent show from Pro Wrestling Grind. I go one-on-one with Bryce Donovan from the Shook Crew, a graduate of the Creative Pro School over there in New York. He's a great talent, and it was quite an experience to work with him in a singles match. I had been in a tag team match with him some time ago, but this was a very different Bryce. He's fresh back from some injuries, so I was happy to be one of his early matches back. And he did fantastic. You'd never know he was out and injured because, he could take a real beating and just keep going. All right, we're gonna try to. I can still get that piece. Yeah, there we go. That's what you want to see. Making some progress there now. But yeah, so Pro Wrestling Grind is going to be streaming live on IWTV. If you're not a subscriber, you should become a subscriber. Keep up with Pro Wrestling Grind there. You can also find Pro Wrestling Grind on YouTube. Keep up with a bit of their work there. Not everything goes up on YouTube, but they do try to put a few things here and there. And certainly their prelim series, where certain talents are sort of getting their first opportunity in front of our Grind audience, who are a fantastic audience and a discerning audience. They really, they love great wrestling, and they let you know it. Also in 2 weeks, Pro Wrestling Grind is presenting Emerald Sword, the first step on the path to crowning a new Pro Wrestling Grind Grand Champion. Unfortunately, at Masters of Reality, Jay Freddy tore his Achilles tendon in the main event against Anthony Henry. And he has had to relinquish the Pro Wrestling Grind Grand Championship, which is a real bummer because Jay Freddy, you couldn't ask for a better first champion than Jay Freddy. He is everything that Pro Wrestling Grind ever wanted to embody. And what a first champion to have. Did a great job. Yeah, if my voice sounds a little beat up, it's I had to mow the lawn the other day, and I have terrible allergies, and yeah, that first mow of the season is always one of the roughest because there's so much pollen in the air that time of year, and yeah, just been a rough couple of nights sleeping all stuffed up from that. And I've been outside working on some of the chickens, their facilities. There was a bad winter storm that took out a big fence that we have to protect the chickens, and been working on fixing that up. Yeah, you can see with a lot of this, like I told you, it can be a bit of a bear to take these supports off. But once it's done, it's such a beautiful piece. I mean, I do hope the young folks who get to work with these in the classroom setting really appreciate what it is. That's one of the that part opened up real nice. It's one of the really neat things about 3D printing organic shapes as opposed to geometric shapes is you get all these incredible shapes and colors, and I mean, that's not something you would design yourself. That's something that comes from centuries of evolving. And it's really cool that we can then, through the process of 3D scanning, which is, I believe, how these parts were made. I'm probably wrong, but I know some of the models they have me printing were scanned from samples at the Field Museum in Chicago. So scanned from actual fossils, from actual animals. And once you do that, you have a computer model and you can create a 3D print file. And it's just so cool that we can do that now. You know, years ago, you would have had to have hired someone to look at the original and either cast a mold of it, which can be pretty dangerous to your original piece if it's not done right, or they'd otherwise just have to, you know, sculpt their own copy, which is never, you know, it's not exact, and it's a lot of manual labor. It's an incredible talent, and it's something that I've been meaning to get into myself. I do have somewhere down here in this basement, I do have some sculpting clay and then some oil-free modeling clay for mold making. It's something I want to get into at some point, but for now, you know, with the 3D printer, it's just not necessary for what I do. All right, there we go. Yeah, that's what you want. Yeah, like I said, this it's quite the process to get all these parts off of here, and I've got a lot to go through, so I will likely be doing these after the stream still. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the grind stream tomorrow. It's always a little nerve-wracking for me because I know how the audience at Pro Wrestling Grind feels about me. I know how they feel about me. But the audience that watches those shows online, you never know. You know, I don't know them personally, so they don't have the connection with me that the Pro Wrestling Grind audience does in person. You know, they see me, they come up to the merch table, they talk with me, they interact. So yeah, it's always a little nerve-wracking to have something you've done be shown to a wide audience that way for the first time. But you know, the show itself was an amazing show and a great time, and you know, sold out house at the Pulaski Club in East Hampton, which is fantastic. You know, it's still a very young company. Pro Wrestling Grind having been around now, you know, still less than 2 years. I think they just did their 15th show, 16th show, something like that. So that's still a very new company. All right. Some of this is a little difficult to do because I'm sure it's reading on camera. It's hard to see where edges are, where certain parts begin and certain parts end. Oh, that's good. That's gonna... Yeah, that just opened up a whole bunch of this. That's real nice. Yeah, this is the less glamorous part of 3D printing that you never hear about. You know, you hear about, oh yeah, I set the machine and I walk away and it does it all for me. That's not the end of the story. You know, depending on the shape, depending on what you're making, it can be a real process to free that print from the support materials that it took to create it. And that's where I am now, trying to free this beautiful organic shape from its very tech looking support materials. They do make it's pretty interesting technology, certainly not anything that's come along to the level I'm at yet, or anything I could afford for that matter. They make 3D printers with multiple extruders, and you can actually you can program your G-code so that the support materials are printed in one material and the actual piece is printed in another material. And that first material can be something that is, for example, water soluble. So when the print is finished, you can put it in a tank of water and it will dissolve all the supports away for you. I tell you, I could use something like that, but it is a far cry from being anything I could afford. You know, Also, the maintenance and the build on a multi-extruder 3D printer would just be mind-boggling to me. I'm sure I could do it, but it would be a slow process, let me tell you. Oh, yeah, now we're getting somewhere. Haha. Yeah. Oh, that's great. That just took a whole chunk off of there. That's real nice. All right. Getting down to the nitty-gritty on this one. After this, I'm going to show you what we're doing with these two vintage monster truck toys. Because they've got an interesting story, and I've got a cool little plan for them. All right. There we go. Yeah, you may have noticed I have a little rubber mallet out here, and that's just so I can kind of wedge these blades, and I try to avoid doing it because it's a good way to mar some of the plastic of the actual piece you're working on. But in some cases, it's really the only way. So, you know, I try to keep an open mind on my methods here, because again, this part of the process is an art, not a science. There we go. Yeah, that just about freed up everything. And now I'm going to do a nice careful look over everything to make sure there's no straggly bits. And I think that is our cleaned up Titanaboa Vertebrae. All right, how'd we do on that? What's got to check the time and see how I did. All right, well, about 20 minutes. So, yeah, you know, 3D printing is a lucrative endeavor, but, you know, you do devote some serious time to it. All right. Yeah, and there you go. This is seeing them stack here, these vertebrae. That's, that would be a section of Titanaboa spine there. So, pretty cool. All right. Set those over there and out of the way. Close these blades up and do a little bit of cleanup, and then we're going to talk about these guys. So, yeah, again, this Titanaboa Vertebrae, part of a project I'm doing for an educational nonprofit. Very excited about that. They like my work. I've sent them some things before. And, but of course, we all know that where Perry Von Vicious is concerned, toy monster trucks are near and dear to my heart. I was at the Brimfield Antique Fair and Flea Market in Brimfield, Mass. This past week. And I was walking around, and at one booth, I picked up this guy. This is... and I'm going to try to get it under some light here so I can read. This is a 1988 Road Champs monster truck. A little convertible, looks to be sort of modeled in the style of like a 57 Chevy. A lot of great detail in it. I'm not sure how much will come up on camera here, but a whole steering console, nice seats, open, you know, doors that open and close. You know, it's a lovely little piece. And then, a couple tables later, I found a second one. And of course, I don't think I need to work too hard to point out the difference here. It is missing the tires. The tires Oh man, I might not be able to pull one off to show you. These old trucks, they get kind of stuck. But the tires are essentially thin rubber pieces that fit over these hubs. And I'm not sure what would have happened to these. I didn't get a story to go with it, but it just came like that. And the piece itself looks to be in great shape. Everything's there except for the tires. So lucky for me, I had run into this problem before with some of my Matchbox superchargers that I collect. So I'd created a file for these tires that I could 3D print. And now I'm going to take you over to the printer, and we'll get a look at that. So this is these are the tires as they come off the printer. And I'm going to go ahead and pull these off the print bed, turn the machine off, and then we're going to see if we can fix up that toy over there, make it look like new. So you can tell this print bed is a little bit more beat up than that other one. That other machine's a lot newer than this. This is my first 3D printer. I got this the first Christmas during the COVID shutdown. Knowing nothing about 3D printers, nothing about 3D printing, nothing about 3D modeling. My wife knew my DIY, make stuff, build stuff proclivities. And yeah, I'm gonna auto home this one so I can shut it down. And decided to get me a 3D printer, figuring, no joke, that I would make toy monster trucks. And she was absolutely right. I have on a shelf over here, this is one of my first prototypes that I made. It has little axles made of paper clips. And it was a lot of work to put together, and it is not nearly as refined as some of my other toys that I've made. But it's not bad. It took a fair bit of work to design, but when I hold it next to, for example, a Rollin' Thunder, you can see how carefully I modeled the entire design off of it. And that's just because these are the toys I grew up with when I was a kid. So that's what I wanted. But now that that's reset, I'm going to turn that off. I have these pulled now, and I'm going to bring us back over to the workbench here. So I have these, and just as with the Titanaboas where there's support material to remove, the same is true here. It is going to be considerably easier, though, because there's far less of it. So I'm going to grab my little blade here, and I should be able to just, yeah, there it goes. Just pops right off. Yeah. I'm going to do that to all of these, and we're going to get these all cleaned up so that we can see if everything fits. There's 2, there's 3, and 4. All right. So, one thing you're going to notice right away on the close-up, some of this is kind of ugly and matted and doesn't look so great, and that's strictly because I print these on kind of a low quality setting because I'm not too worried about it. I take care of it a couple ways. The first is I take this is a sanding sponge. If you've never seen one of these, they are fantastic. And I just give it a little, and just that much is enough to kind of smooth it down. And I'm going to hit all of them that way. And there's 2. Three, and 4. All right, the next thing you're going to notice, and I'm not sure how well it's going to show on the screen, but there's these little plastic stringies, and from the sanding, It's a fair bit of dust here. And I'm going to show you a pretty common way that people in the 3D printing world fix that stuff, especially with PLA, which is a pretty low temperature piece. I'm just going to I have a grill lighter here, and just very carefully, I'm just going to kind of go around lightly, and it just takes care of all of that. It doesn't take much. That's all it takes. And yeah, now I've got a really nice piece there. So I'm going to hit all of these just real quick to take care of all the little stringy bits and all the little dusty bits around the front. The Titanaboa pieces don't need this treatment because I printed them on a much higher quality setting. And that's because, you know, those folks are, first of all, paying me pretty well to do that work. So I want to produce something that they'll be very happy with and something I'm proud of. But also, those are being used as educational tools. And I think that, you know, as someone who used to be a full-time teacher, that's something I think is pretty important. So I think it's worth the extra work. So now the moment of truth is to see if these actually fit like my other ones do. Oh, go right on. It's beautiful. Oh, I'm so happy about that. That is really nice. They're a little bit loose, but that's okay because a quick little hit of super glue and they're good to go. But you'll see once these are all on here, just like that. Look at how nice that looks. That is spectacular. I'm so happy with that. Looks really good. Yeah, fantastic. Ah, so happy with that. But, you know, no sense leaving a job half done. I am gonna hit those with just a little bit of the super glue so that they stay put. But I am exceedingly happy with how that looks. I'm hearing a drip noise down here and wondering if something has gone terribly wrong with my house. Nope, it's the dehumidifier. Never mind, everything's good, everybody. Wouldn't that have been something if I discovered a flood somewhere in my house on the live stream? All right, so I'm just gonna do a quick little bead of super glue around here. Just a little bit. It really won't take much. And then set the tire on. And I'm going to do that for all of these tires because there we go. That one. It is pretty unsettling to hear a frequent drip noise from that dehumidifier. Really, we had a flood in this basement about 2 years ago that did quite a bit of damage and took quite a bit of work to fix up afterwards. And I feel like I'm having some kind of flashback to that. All right, it's the last one. All right, those are good and on there, and I'm just going to set it right there and let that glue cure for a day or so. Yeah, but I am very pleased with that. I think that looks fantastic. All right, so that was a silly little side project I had. But now we're going to move over to the resin printer because I have some cleanup to do on that machine because it has some projects in its future, and I need to get it ready to go. I'm gonna adjust some lighting here for a minute so that you can all still see everything I'm doing. So please bear with me. All right, there we go. Okay, so resin printers are a beast all onto their own, and they can be a great deal of work, but they're very, very much worth it. They print in a fidelity that an FDM printer, a filament printer, can only dream of. This one actually will print in the printing quality equivalent of 4K, which is just amazing and really wild. It's the way that I'm able to print miniatures and have them look really good. Just incredible quality, and they're very reliable. They do have a fair bit of work for keep up though, and that's what I'm working on right now. So I have these tubs of isopropyl alcohol in varying levels of cleanliness. One is a lot dirtier than the other. And what I need to do, this is some sort of, they call it flesh color, sort of a beige tan resin. That's what's in there. I was printing the little miniatures for the Mad tanks in that color, and that's what's in the tank right now, and I need to get that out because the educational nonprofit that I'm doing some work for has asked for some prints of a few different things. They have some more snake vertebrae that I need certain colors for that, but they've also asked for some horse teeth, sets of horse teeth, and for that, of course, the optimal color to print in would be white. So that's what we're gonna do, and my first step is I got to take. Got some old resin kind of half cured in here. That'll drain slow. So I have a filter and a funnel, and I'm going to pour the resin from this tank back into its original container. All right, and it's a slow process because it does take a little while to get through that filter. The filter is really important though, because you don't want solid chunks or semi-cured resin mixing back in with your good resin, because then when you go to use it, you run into a lot of different problems, and none of them are good. All right. So I have this little plastic spatula. You only ever use something like a plastic spatula on the inside of this, because this film that I'm scraping off of, this transparent film, is it is fragile, and it is key to the printer's functionality. You don't want anything to happen to that. I have replaced the film in there. It's not a terribly hard process, but not one that I'd prefer to do all that often. All right, so that's looking pretty good. Let's set this here for the moment. I'm going to let that keep draining, and I'm going to clean this out. One thing about resin printers, because of the different chemicals and such that you use, you do run through a lot of paper towels and a lot of other, rubber gloves, all this, I shouldn't say rubber, they're nitrile gloves. If you get latex gloves, they actually have a bad reaction with the resin. So those are not great for protecting you. All right, so I got that good and clean. So this is actually the build plate. This is what the prints all stick to. Put that right back on the machine. It's ready to go. Now, throw that away and grab a clean piece here. I need to get as much of this old resin out of here as I can, and it is old resin. I haven't printed anything in this machine in weeks, and it is showing. Some of the resin in there appears to have cured up a little bit, which that'll happen. I have blackout curtains on all the windows here in my basement, but no solution is perfect. If there's a little light getting in, it'll ricochet around, and that UV, it'll find your resin. It'll find it. It's the reason that the resin comes in an opaque bottle like this. All right, so that's looking pretty clean. throw that out. One last fresh paper towel to do one last round of cleanup on there, because, you know, like I said, you want this to be as clean as possible and free of little gross bits. And boy, I'll tell you, you know, you get a failed print on this machine, it's because you did something wrong. Full stop. It's never the machine's fault. It is user error, because these machines are wonder machines. They are incredible the way they work. All right. That was actually a lot faster and easier than I thought it would be. You know, a part of the whole process here is that I've done this a lot. You know, I've had this resin printer for 1.5 years now. I've had my first FDM printer for 2.5 years, and the other FDM printer I only added to the fleet and got up and running a couple of months ago. But all of these machines are absolute workhorses. They're incredible, and I only have positive things to say about any of them. They all have a fair bit of work that they take to keep running. And that is just the reality of owning a 3D printer. You know, the technology's come a long ways. I would venture that this machine is as close to a machine that someone with no machine background, no 3D print background, no tech background could absolutely use out of the box. It's as close as you can come to that. You just have to learn how to clean it and how to maintain it, but you don't really have to wrench on it the way you do the FDM printers. They require a fair bit of maintenance here and there, and you know, you're constantly checking to make sure the bed is level, all those sorts of things. All right, so this is looking pretty clean. I'm not actually going to add the new resin to it yet. I do have some white resin here that I haven't even opened yet. That's going to be used there, but I have some older white resin that is still good. And oh yeah, one's still in the bag, one's half open here. And these are ABS like. I may not use them on this because they really don't, the teeth don't need to be ABS like resin. ABS is a plastic that's a little more forgiving, a little less rigid, it's less prone to snapping, and that's how that resin behaves. But I have so much resin over here that I'm trying to check through and see. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to open that fresh new one when the time comes. I might use some of these anyway, but for now, put those back. And yeah, I'm still creating the files for the teeth prints because I can print multiple pieces at a time on here. It's a very reliable printer that way. So close it up just to keep any debris and dust out of there. And I'm going to put these gloves back here. I try to reuse pairs of gloves when possible. You know, these didn't really get very dirty, but you know, they are prone to tearing, and if they get just the right amount of terrible stuff on them, I will toss them. All right. So those can stay right there. All right, machines are all looking good. So I'm going to bring us back over to the workbench here because I still have some of these to get through. All right, yeah, that's now we can see what we're doing. You guys are at a good height to see the work happening. All right, we're looking good. Okay, so I still have 4 of these to get through that I got to remove these materials. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to take this time again to remind anyone tuning in that tomorrow, tomorrow's Tuesday, May 16th at 8 p.m. Eastern on IWTV, we will be debuting Pro Wrestling Grind, Masters of Reality. An event that took place a few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I think at this point. And it was the in-ring return at Pro Wrestling Grind of Bryce Donovan, and he drew the short straw and had to face me, Perry Von Vicious. And he was fantastic. I was fantastic. The fans were fantastic. It was a great turnout, sold-out house. One of the first times I've had family come since I was brand new to pro wrestling. My family are not really wrestling fans, and they don't much care for the idea of being in the room when there's a potential I could get hurt. So they typically avoid my shows. But my brother came to that show, which was very cool. Very cool to have him in the audience. And it's the first time he's seen me wrestle live in almost 15 years. So for him to get to see from when I was brand new and barely knew what I was doing to now, where I'm pretty confident in my work in the ring. That was a really cool experience to get to have him there, and I think he enjoyed it. That said, I'm not entirely sure he'll be back, but I'm glad he got to come out that time. But yeah, had some great interactions with fans at Grind. I really can't say enough how fantastic the Grind fans have been to me. Coming out of the pandemic where I had taken a lot of time away from the ring, I wasn't sure how I'd be received pretty much anywhere. And leading up to the debut of Grind, I wasn't really sure if wrestling was still interested in having me around. And the first time I went through the curtain there, those worries were out the window. They were gone. I could be pretty confident that there was still an audience out there that wanted to see Perry Von Vicious. And I appreciate that. But yeah, let's see, I also went to, there was a town-wide tag sale the next town over in my birthplace, Greenfield, Massachusetts, over the weekend, and no monster truck toys there for me, I'm afraid. But they did have, we picked up a couple of tables that were really nice and very underpriced, and I picked up a couple of records. I got a Smothers Brothers record that I didn't have. Yeah, for those who don't know, I am obsessed with novelty and comedy music. So my record collection in particular really reflects that. And I also got the soundtrack to Romper Room. Anyone close to my age will remember Romper Room from the late 80s, early 90s. One of those weird little educational kids TV shows that was only kind of educational. It was mostly just grown-ups singing to puppets. But yeah, I picked up the vinyl of the soundtrack of that show. Hard to say no for 50 cents. But yeah, came home and proceeded to reorganize the record collection, which was it was a mental break that I needed. I'd had a lot of busy days, and I'd been sick for a little while, so taking a little time to dig through my music and listen to some albums while I did it was kind of nice. So for folks who have just joined, or if you've been watching the whole time but doing your best to not pay attention, what I'm working on here is removing the support material from a 3D print of this. And this is the vertebrae to a Titanaboa snake. This is a project I'm working on. I was contracted by a educational nonprofit who are using these in some different classroom exercises, and I'm very happy to be able to help them out because as a former full-time teacher, I can appreciate how cool that is. That's really, really neat to be able to bring something like this into the classroom. and show kids. So I hope they get a lot of use out of it, and I hope the kids enjoy it. All right, now we're getting somewhere. These support materials, I'll tell you, they do a great job of staying in place and making sure the print comes out right, but they are a pain in the butt to remove afterwards. I think if I were to redo this project, there's other styles of supports, tree supports, for example, and different amounts of supports that you can use. You know, you can tell it, I only want supports if the angle is this steep, or I only want the supports to be, you know, 2-ply, and you can go lighter that way. I went kind of heavy because I was printing in a really high fidelity, and I didn't want anything to happen to the prints while they were working. And that definitely is the case. The prints came out beautifully, considering it's all done on an FDM printer, which is not really made for this purpose. They're not really made for printing organic shapes. They're more meant for mechanical pieces, you know, very geometric. It's sort of like these tires that I printed. You know, they want to be something that's meant to fit somewhere rather than something... I mean, it's an art piece, really. So yeah, kind of an off-brand use of the printer in a lot of ways, but certainly one that it pulled through and did a great job. I hope no one watching is particularly adverse to watching a clumsy guy use a knife, because I know that can be nerve-wracking. Let's see, the last stream I started talking a little bit about my trip to Disneyland, and I don't think I really touched on it too much, but boy, it was a great time. You know, I really enjoy how much you can do at Disneyland without necessarily realizing that you did so much. There was one day where we had really taken it easy. You know, we thought we were, oh, you know, really having a mellow day here in the park. And it wasn't until the end of the night we were riding the Casey Jr. Circus train. And I just started thinking to myself about what rides we had done that day. I sort of started counting in my head. By the time we were off the ride, I said to my wife, you know, we did 18 rides today. And I don't know if that sounds like a lot to people, but it feels like a lot. Especially considering it was just the one park. You know, it's just Disneyland. We weren't in California Adventure that day. You know, it's not like Disney World where, you know, you have unlimited space. It's a small park, but there's a lot in there. They really use the space, let me tell you. Yeah, all right. But yeah, we're making some progress here. There we go. That's gonna open up a bit of this. Sorry, I just bumped the camera. The camera. It's my phone. My phone's the camera. I'm not fancy here with what I'm doing. You know, I'm picking apart 3D prints. No sense using some incredible high-end camera for this. Looks like 3 people watching the stream. Welcome, guys. I hope you're all enjoying it on this this Monday evening. I know there's certainly other stuff you could be watching. You know, Monday night, classically a night for wrestling. So pretty cool that you hopped on here. I hope it's not too dull. I say that as I'm hammering a knife toward my own torso. But yeah, the most difficult part with this is definitely getting these supports off of here. And it's entirely just a design thing, you know, a choice I made in the process. There were ways I could have made it easier on myself, but I opted for a quality print over having less work to do. And that's, boy, if that isn't the story of my life. Choosing the hard way in favor of quality end result. All right. Nice. Yeah, making progress now. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to 2 weeks from now. The date escaping me, but 2 Fridays from this Friday is the next Pro Wrestling Grind. Pro Wrestling Grind presenting Emerald Sword, where we will begin the road to crowning a new Grind Grand Champion. Of course, the matches there. There's going to be 4 matches that are qualifier matches to be entered into a fatal 4-way match to determine the second ever Pro Wrestling Grind Grand Champion. Very excited about that entire card, but about those matches in particular. I think it's a very exciting time to be a fan or performer. Hey, the whole rest of that came off as one piece. Big win. Turns out messing around with that hammer paid off. Who knew? All right, that is the second one done. This is looking really nice. Yeah. All right, checking on the time here. Yeah, I'm going to stay on for a couple of more minutes here, work on one more. But yeah, if you just tuned in, I have this little monster truck that I picked up at a flea market last week. And then I got the exact same one, but it was missing the tires. And if you look carefully, these are 3D printed replicas that I made and stuck on there. And I am very happy with how those look. I think they really complete the look of the truck. And yeah, very excited about that. Always nice to breathe new life into an old classic toy. These are 1988 Road Champs toys, sort of modeled after the Matchbox Superchargers, which pretty much anywhere in my house I've got one at arm's reach. This is a Rollin' Thunder from that series, and you can see definitely modeled to fit that same mold, just a different company. You know, the 80s were an interesting time for copyright law and intellectual property laws. People got away with a lot more then, I think. But yeah, I'm so excited to have contracted commissions coming in like this, especially for a project that's so unique as printing models of snake vertebrae. Really just a strange and interesting thing to do. And they've come out beautifully. I'm so happy with how they're looking. This has all been a very strange hobby to have picked up, and one that I didn't foresee. But, 3D printers, all the tech, it became so affordable so quickly that once I had one and learned how to do it, I had to get more. And I'm currently at 3 printers and doing projects for others, projects for myself. I will say the Mutually Assured Destruction monster tanks are sold out at the moment, which is a little bit of a bummer. I know some folks wanted them and couldn't get them, but that's just how it works out. People beat you to it. And I would have more, but my printers have been a little busy working on these. So I will have more eventually, and for those who know that I've had some monster truck toys at about this scale that feature myself, I'll have more of those eventually too. Making toys to sell at shows has been a real joy because people really get a kick out of them. People really enjoy them. I get sent pictures of people's collections of the toys that I've made, and that's just so cool. I think every little kid plays with and likes toys, and I think most little kids go through a phase where they want to make their own or customize the ones they have, and certainly I'm no different. When I was a kid, me and my friends would definitely do that, where we would rip our toy monster trucks apart and Frankenstein them together with other toy monster trucks, or You know, we'd buy model paints and paint them different colors so that they look more like different ones from TV. You know, I think that's a natural phase that most kids go through, is the phase when they realize that these pieces that they get at the store, these toys, they were made by somebody, and there's no reason that you can't change them in a way that you like. And so they do. And for some kids, it's a temporary phase, and for other kids, like myself, it becomes a lifelong pursuit. So I'm happy that people like them. I'm happy that people take them home and take pictures with them. I know it's not just been adult fans that have liked them. There have been kids who've collected them. And that's just the coolest, you know, knowing that, you know, that little kid not just gets a toy of me, which is neat. I mean, just the fact that they would want one is humbling in its own right. But knowing that they can see that it's possible to make their own, because they know I made them. I tell people when they come to the merch table that, you know, I designed these myself. I print them in my house on my own 3D printers, which I think is actually part of their appeal to a lot of people. I think people really like knowing that, oh, this isn't just a toy of Perry Von Vicious. This isn't just a toy that he likes or he had designed. I think they really get a kick out of the fact that it's something I worked on. And, you know, the feeling's mutual. I get a kick out of it. All right, now we're getting somewhere. There it goes. Yeah, a lot of these pieces kind of break off in big chunks very suddenly. You know, definitely if you take up this hobby yourself and you're doing it yourself, there are better ways to do this. This is just how I do it. And again, probably the best way is to have designed this so that it didn't have pieces that were like this. But, you know, coulda, shoulda, woulda, I suppose. All right, once I get this last bit freed up here, I'm going to call it a stream, and I'll continue toiling over these on my own. But again, I just wanted to, before anyone jumps off, I wanted to remind you that tomorrow night, Tuesday, at 8 p.m. Eastern, on IWTV is the debut of Pro Wrestling Grind Masters of Reality. Rip Bison and Derek Neal in probably the greatest strap match I've ever seen. And man, they delivered for those fans in East Hampton. What a match those two had. That was really something else. You get to see you know, Delmy Exo in competition. You get to see Mike Skyros. You get to see, you know, it's all the big stars of Pro Wrestling Grind are there. I go one-on-one with the returning Bryce Donovan coming back from injury. You know, he's had a rough couple of years here where he's been injured pretty frequently. And every time he comes back, he is better than when he left. So, you know, for those keeping an eye on him, you know, please enjoy the ride, because I think, you know, there's big things in Bryce's future. And you know, I think anyone who watches him perform knows that. But if you want to see me go one-on-one with Bryce Donovan, if you want to see Derek Neal and Iron Rip Bison in a strap match, you got to tune in tomorrow night on IWTV for Masters of Reality, Pro Wrestling Grind. All right, I'm going to call that close enough for now, and I'll continue working on it. Thank you so much for joining the stream. If you joined it live and you enjoyed it here on Twitch, please go ahead, you know, subscribe, follow, whatever the Twitch term is. I'm not a big Twitch guy myself, other than using it for these. And if you're seeing this on my YouTube, where I upload them after the fact, please like, share, subscribe, check out. I have another live stream on here, and I'll have more coming in the future. The previous one, I was painting miniatures of myself and Rip Bison for some toys that we had. And I have other videos there. I have a vlog series, keeping up with my adventures, going to concerts, going to Disney, going to monster truck shows, going to wrestling shows where I'm performing. And you can also check out all of my little promo videos, hype videos that I put out before every show. I did one recently that was a silent film with Rip Bison. We have a pretty funny one that I enjoyed making, getting ready for our match with MSP a couple of weeks back. And there's one that's in the style of Wes Anderson, of me getting ready for the Bryce Donovan match. So yeah, check all those out on my YouTube. You can find me on all the major social media platforms at Perry Von Vicious, spelt exactly the same as it is on this channel. Thank you so much for joining. And I'll be back again doing these another time, because I still have a few to go, and I'll have more stuff to make for this same project. So stay tuned, because it's all really interesting and very strange stuff, and that's what I enjoy. So thank you. We'll see you again.